9/11 may have been an inside job. On September 11, 2001, 4 passenger planes were hijacked by radical Islamist terrorists. Almost 3,000 people were killed as the aircraft were flown into the World Trade Center, the Pentagon and a Pennsylvania field. Just hours after the collapse of New York's Twin Towers, a conspiracy theory surfaced online which persists more than 16 years later. Is it just me? I hope other people are actually catching this, but I haven't seen anyone say it yet, so I guess I will. There's no doubt that the planes hit the building and did a lot of damage. But look at the footage, those buildings were demolished, he continued. To demolish a building, you don't need all that much explosive, but it needs to be placed in the correct places. Someone had to have a lot of access to all of both towers and a lot of time to do this. This is pretty grim. The really dire part is, what were the planes for? Subsequent investigations made it clear that the tower structures were weakened by the inferno from the planes and felled by the weight of collapsing floors. However, even now some people refuse to believe this version of events. Something's happened in New York. On the day of the attacks, Matt Campbell was on holiday in Lanzarote with his wife and 2 young daughters. He followed the news on television in a state of shock. His brother Jeff, it transpired over the next few agonizing hours, was in the World Trade Center. My mother had just flown out the day before to join us for a week, he remembers. I recall being on the beach and I think my wife had gone up to one of the restaurants to get some food. She came down saying, "I think something's happened in New York." I recall being on the beach and I think my wife had gone up to one of the restaurants to get some food. She came down saying, "I think something's happened in New York." A few calls here and there and we managed to establish that Jeff was in the North Tower. No one had heard from him. Jeff had moved to Manhattan a couple of years earlier. He'd recently got engaged and worked for the Reuters news agency in Midtown. He was on the 106th floor of the North Tower for a conference. We immediately thought the worst, says Matt. Over the next few days we tried to keep our hopes up. We were stranded, no flights were leaving. All we had was a kind of hazy picture on the hotel's cable TV. The news clips were being repeated showing the plane going into Tower 2. BBC report. The confusion and chaos of September 11, 2001 has also helped the conspiracies find an audience. To take one notable example, a third tower collapsed in Manhattan on September 11, World Trade Center. This tower has become a key focus for people who question the official account of what happened. A 47-story building about 100 meters from the Twin Towers, World Trade Center was never struck by an airplane. 2 planes plus 3 towers has equaled plenty of questions compounded by the BBC's own reporting of the collapse of WTC-7. In the frenetic, confusing aftermath of the terror attacks, the BBC reported that WTC-7 had collapsed 20 minutes before the building actually came down. In 2007, the BBC's The Editor's blog addressed the reports and traced how an on-air comment about an imminent collapse turned into reporting about the building actually falling, shortly before World Trade Center did indeed fall. Any apparent discrepancy was cleared up by a 2008 report by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, which found that World Trade Center collapsed after fires on multiple floors caused a critical support column to fail, initiating a fire-induced progressive collapse that brought the building down. But that did not change the minds of the conspiracy theorists. AE 911 Truth Board member Roland Engel alleges there are significant errors in the NIST report. His organization has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to fund additional research at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. The conclusions of that study will be published in 2018. We're trying to clear up the reputation of our own profession, Roland tells me. We can say what didn't happen that day, no matter what the government report says. We think there's a serious issue here. Matt Campbell's also still looking for answers. In 2016, he flew to Guantanamo to attend a pre-trial hearing of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the man described by the 9/11 Commission report as the principal architect of the 9/11 terror attacks. He called the trial a bit of a farce but said, "It's the closest I'm ever going to get to a trial into the murder of my brother." There were 4 other families there. I know one of the ladies there had signed a Reinvestigate 9/11 petition back in 2003 or 2004. The other family members, from what I could gather, were pretty much in line with the official narrative. But I already expect this. My own experience in England, with family members, is that some people have got past wanting to know what happened. They're still dealing with the never-ending effects of losing a loved one. Let me know your thoughts on this in comment box.